Hi friend, this video is a guide, a sort of breakdown for the project Endless Journey, a project which I'm sharing with you for free on my ArtStation marketplace. There is also a standard license for commercial purposes and just in case you want to support my work. This video is made to help you better understand the different aspects of the project and know what you're actually downloading. Now, before we get started, it's worth mentioning that this project was made about 3 or 4 years ago, so I was very inexperienced, and the entire project is me experimenting with non-destructive hard surface modeling, modifiers, geometry nodes, modular instancing, and semi-procedural texturing. So you will see that the level of detail across the project is not very consistent and that certain parts are modeled in different ways. Some are very low quality, some others are actually pretty decent. Now, I will go through every collection so that we will have gone through everything. But also let me tell you that the naming of the collections are accurate, but the naming of the objects themselves are pretty weird. For example, this wall is Q the 0.163. Let's disable this and open links. Links are basically everything that is instanced across the entire project. Now, some of them are not even used. I think this connector 01 isn't even used, but let's check out the other ones. This connector 02, this is connector 04, it's here. This is 4, 5, and 6. We have air vents. These air vents are also made in a non-destructive way, so you can change anything. You have to select all of them together. You can change anything. And it will change it across the entire project. We have these air vents for walls. We have air vent heights. And they usually have booleans and bevels and things like that. We have these handles too, power panels, and last two ones are two high poly and bonsai high poly, which are two completely different projects. They are paid projects of mine, but you will get the high poly version of them for free in this project. You will also get a spray bottle for free, but that one isn't in the links collection. Now, for the room, if we were to start by order, there is floor old. What is floor old? Floor old is essentially the first time I tried to make the floor. This is how floor old looks like. There's a frame and the frame is cutting through all the parquets or these objects. We have booleans and things like that. You can change all those. That's the entirety of the floor old. Now, for the purpose of this project, let's actually go to floor, just to show you the difference between floor old and the one I ended up with. This is a more modular and procedural way of approaching this floor. And if we go to geometry nodes, as a geometry node, it looks like something like this. It's basically arraying and then using a cage, floor cage. Let's select all these. The floor cage, if you change the floor cage, you will change the look of the frame. Now, if you get any artifacts like this, all you have to do is to add more geometry to it, basically subdivide the middle edges and add more geometry to it to just fix that. There are some parameters you could change, but I just told you, I guess, but you could change it to really anything you want and it will work perfectly. Now, there are some parameters you can change. There's precision offset. Precision offset is like the offset in an array, so it's not much different from that. There's count. We could set the count to 60 and then make it a smaller. Then there's also an effect threshold, which if we increase, it's going to fix anything that is going wrong. Now, there's middle scale, outer scale, and position noise. Position noise adds noise to the entire position of the objects so that you will get something much more random. There's also edge noise, which adds noise only to the edges of the object, border edges of the object. So it just gives it a much more random, organic look. This is floor, and that's how it looks like. Then we have disk old, which looks like something like this. We select this. And then it's unselectable, okay. This is how disk old looks like. It's more of a vintage look, more of a steampunk look, something like that. Then we have disk new, which is essentially our newest disk, except it's like a level back. And then we have our disk new 2, which is the disk itself. There's this display monitor, which you can close and open. There's this LAN, which right now is not made in a way that you could change everything in it. You could change like the LED part, but if you want to change the LAN itself, you have to separate every single part by hand. And these metal panels here are sort of made as places that the gravity is always on, like these are magnetic fields maybe, or something like that, which they always have gravity on the gravity of the rest of the shape may be off, but these things are always on. After this, we have chair. The chair is one of those sample examples which I told you level of detail is very inconsistent. The chair is modeled very high detail, but there are, for example, these processors or whatever they are, which are very low quality, like a placeholder or something. Now, the chair can open to look more like a chair. You could rotate these things on their local z-axis, and then grab this, rotate it on its x-axis, and then take this out a little, and this is how the chair will look like. We'd always also grab this and bring it up a little. These handles also can open, and they don't look very high detailed anyways, but they could open if you want them to. Could build this, and then it doesn't look good, but it's like an armrest, but it probably needs to be re-scaled to look better. Kind of feels like out of scale. The entire reason this chair is doing this is like a transformer chair. The entire reason is that the first idea I had for it is that the chair is on a rail, and in case there's no gravity in the room, the chair moves back on the rail. If we grab this curve and move it back on the rail, and then there's a hole here which the chair goes onto. There's actually more that the chair can do. Let's select these 2 discs, rotate them 180 degrees. Now select these 2, and then rotate them like this. Kind of put it in the wall without any movement, because there's no gravity. That's the chair. We have partition lift. Now this is very simple. Doesn't have much to say about it. It's like some simple modeling, honestly. The partition inside of it, though, is like Voronoi partition. Is really cool. It looks like a 3D printed Voronoi partition. It's also using a Voronoi SPG file, which I have then changed a little, and then I'm adding these modifiers to it to make it look like the partition in the wall. After this, we have panels. Not sure what that is. Okay, we have this panel. This is not something great. It's just to add more details to the thing. It's pretty self-explanatory. So we also have to enable these. We have the bed. The bed is also made in Marvelous Designer. I mean, the pillow and the mattress is made in Marvelous Designer. And this part of it, I think it's an array. Yes, it is an array with a mirror modifier. So that this is how this thing is made. And we have the windows. The window is also pretty self-explanatory, except in window frame. I'm not sure if the window frame is here or not, but the size of the frame could change. I mean, this is bed frame, probably. Yes, it's in the bed. This is the bed frame, and the size of the bed frame can change. And for the windows, we have four different styles of top windows. This is the first style. This is the second one. This is the third one which I'm using, and this is the fourth one. Now we have air vents. Air vents are instanced objects. We have the floor, which we went through. We have the walls. The walls are also pretty self-explanatory. There's nothing special about the walls. This one is also like this. It's an array, I guess. Yes, it is an array. We have the wall too. The walls could also be modular parts placed together, except I'm not doing that. It's like the entire wall is one piece here. And then we have these pillars, sort of pillars that separate the different partitions of the wall and make it look more interesting. We have this maybe clips. I'm not sure what you would call this. These are just to add more interesting things to the wall. There's this wall and there is this wall. We have fences. The fences are very interesting. The fences are also made in a way which you could change their looks pretty easily. For instance, I could maybe insert this and then extrude it upwards, and it does that on all the parts, and it just works procedurally without any needing to change anything. And then we have this empty in the middle of the fences, which you could change in the y-axis to sort of change their size. That's the fences. We have wall 5. I'm not sure which wall that is. And this one doesn't have anything interesting either. We have the sink. The sink is also very self-explanatory. This is simple modeling. There's nothing special to it. That's why I'm just moving along. We have this dumpster. We have the pipes. The pipes are, I mean, this pipe is just modeling, but the pipes themselves are modular parts attached together. The long pipes like these, or if I disable this, the longer pipes have an empty at the end of them, which if you change did I just delete it? Which if you change its size, you can change the size of the pipe, and everything after it is parented to the empty, so that if you change the size of the pipe, everything else will also follow. And then these are also pretty self-explanatory. They are modular parts which are instanced and attached together. We have these attachers, maybe what they call connectors. We have these elbow pipes, the valves, the tri pipes, if that's what it's called. And this thing, which again, inconsistency, doesn't really make much sense. It's just there like a pump that pulls the water downward so that it doesn't fly to your face. There's no gravity again. And the entire idea was that the character enters the room, there's no gravity, she grabs onto this handle and then activates the gravity probe here that sits by the window and plays some music. The window is also a digital display that can either show the stars or change to something else. For example, it could be New York City underwater. It could be something like Bioshock, to be honest. Or it could be a sunrise, a sunset, a rainy forest, and a train ride. It could change to anything that would make the endless journey a bit more interesting. And then we have the roof. The roof also have some pipes in it, which are made using geometry nodes. This is how the pipes look like. You could, for instance, select this, do Ctrl Alt Shift S to add some shear to it, and then select Y or X axis. Once you have your shear, then select extrude them in, for example, the X axis to create more pipes. And that's how the pipes are made. And what up? Yeah, it looks like it looks right. Then the roof also should have roof style. We do not. Oh, so we have these things, these roof panels, which are also made in a more non-destructive way. We could change anything to it and it changes the entire, not only this part, but every other part that is using the same geometry, like this one or this one. You have the door. The door is not even in the final shot, but we just made it. You have these handles, which are like emergency handles in case of no, maybe electricity or something like that. You have these panels, which weirdly enough it opens. Like I just found that out recently. I was making this video and found that you could open the panels. I just told you it was made like 3 or 4 years ago. The door can also slide forward and then open. You also have these capsule thingies and this display which is supposed to open the door. You have the closet, the thing, and these are pretty self-explanatory. Drawer, chest, and closet. We have a screwdriver, which honestly is actually a pretty cool model. You could, if you wanted to, create a kit bash of any of these models for a video game. You could do that. For instance, the panels here, the urban panels, look pretty good, or the driver looks good. There are certain parts of the project which are in fact fairly well made. So you could, for instance, model a low poly version of this screwdriver using like a retopology technique. And then there are certain artifacts here you could fix by either increasing the angle of your bevel or adding bevels manually by doing, say, select sharp edges 30 degrees and then do Ctrl E edge bevel weight and then set this to weight bevels and disable the weight on these parts, and this would fix the screwdriver for you. I might actually send you the fixed version and you just need to save this file and delete anything. Okay, that's the screwdriver. And to bake its textures, normal maps, and the high poly information to the low poly we've just made, you could use an add-on like the auto bake. It comes here, and it's honestly the best baking add-on I've ever used. It makes the baking process a lot easier, especially since there are multiple materials here that you want to bake into the low poly version. You have the spray. I just told you the spray is also a paid model, but here you have the raw models with multiple materials on it. The bonsai and the shoes are also not part of this project, but you will get them. And the lights, the roof lights, could slide on these rays or metal panels or whatever they are. Then we have PR lights. I'm not sure why they are called PR lights, but you could, for instance, rotate the light that is attached to them and then change its look. You have to move it slightly to make sure it's in the right position. It's not that perfect, but it works and it looks pretty good. It's much better than, I'm instancing this 3 times, so it's much better than having to do it manually. For instance, if I were to make this button here smaller, I could do that and it would apply to all the other lights. We also have this thing, which I forgot to talk about. This is also another light like this, like a study light, which this one, in fact, does have the accurate joints and axes. And I think that's it. We have put bed lights, which are these lights. And yeah, I think we're done. We'll just check everything. There are pipes here, for instance, which you could change. I think there's a curve inside of it. Yes, you could change the pipes. Almost all pipes or all wires are curved, so they can be easily changed. And I don't see anything else, but if you have any questions, there's this one we are going to talk about also. If you have any questions regarding to any part of the project, please contact me and I will be more than happy to answer you. You could, this is also made with joints, so you could change its looks like this. You could limit the moving to the X, to the Y and Z axis, and then move it to whatever position you want. You could subdivide them and just create more interesting shapes with it. And it always just updates the right way. Yeah, and that's how this light on the wall looks like. This actually controls it because and yeah, the texturing is done using one single texture. I was experimenting with semi-procedural texturing, so the only texture I'm using, I mean, except for the bonsai, the shoes, or the colored textures, the only texture that I'm using is, in fact, one RGB grunge map, which is 3 different grunge maps packed into the R, G, and B channels of a PNG texture file. And this is how it looks. But we are sampling different channels differently, so it's pretty good. And that's it. If you have any questions, please make sure to ask them in the comments or email me or anything. I'll be happy to answer. Thank you and see you soon.